Hello, my name is Sam Crawley from Victoria University of Wellington, and today I wanted to talk about our paper, Public Opinion on Climate Change, Belief and Concern, Issue Salience and Support for Government Action, published in the British Journal of Politics and International Relations, with my co-authors Hilde Coffé from University of Bath and Chapman from Victoria University of Wellington. So in this paper we wanted to investigate public opinion on climate change in the context of its possible relationship with climate policy, and hopefully to shed some light on the reasons why politicians may have been slow to act on climate change. So when thinking about public opinion on climate change in this political context, it's important to think about the complexity of climate opinion. So a number of studies have investigated belief and concern about climate change, so whether people believe climate change is happening and whether they think it's a serious problem. But in our context, we're also interested in people's degree of support for government action, so that might be whether they support particular climate policies or higher taxes to address climate change. And we're also interested in issue salience, so where people rank climate change relative to other important issues. So our study investigated all three of these dimensions of climate opinion, and we drew on previous research from the Yale program on climate change communication, in particular their 6 Americas studies, and the concept of public will, defined by Rail and colleagues, which suggests that people can be divided into different publics depending on their opinions on a particular issue. So our research used a 2018 online survey that we conducted on the Prolific platform, and we asked people questions on all three of these dimensions of climate opinion. We had 787 respondents from the UK, and we used latent class analysis to understand what the different groupings or publics were of these respondents. So looking at our results, belief in climate change, asking people, do you think climate change is happening and how certain are you in those views? And 74% of people were extremely or fairly certain that climate change is happening. Only 5% thought that climate change is not happening at all. Looking at salience of climate change, we asked people to rank 8 issues from most to least important to the country, and this shows where people ranked climate change among those 8 issues, and we found that over 50% of people ranked climate change in the bottom 2 of those 8 issues, and only 7% put climate change at number 1. So then we identified the different publics of climate opinion, and we found 5 publics. The first of those we labelled the highly engaged, and that was 17% of the population. So these are people who accept that climate change is happening, support government action to address it, and see climate change as high salience. Then there's the moderately engaged, who are similar to highly engaged, except they tend to think that climate change is not such as an important issue relative to other issues. The action wary were people who were hesitant to fully support government action on climate change. 15% of people were uncertain in their climate views, and 6% you could term hard deniers. There's a lot more in the paper on these publics, including what their different views of climate are, and also how different socio-demographic attributes such as age, gender and left-right political orientation relate to these publics. So in summary, the salience of climate change is low in the UK, and only a small section of the public could be considered highly engaged. So this means that politicians tend not to be under substantial public pressure to act on climate change because voters see other issues as more important. So there's plenty of opportunities for future political science research in this area of public opinion on climate change. So, for instance, it would be interesting to more directly test the relationship between public opinion, including the Salience, and climate policy. And also, it would be interesting to understand more about why people see, or so many people tend to see, climate change as a low salience issue, and also to understand how different groups in society, such as particularly interest groups and lobby groups, activists, politicians, how those interact with public opinion to influence climate policy. So if we understand more about public opinion on climate change, it can give us a better understanding of why the political response to climate change seems to have been so slow.